I was just one step away from completing the game because I was pregnant with Harvey's child, even though the favorability levels of all three options had dropped to 0. The system promised me that my game would be considered a win as soon as I gave birth to the child. But when I was 7 months pregnant, my CEO husband stormed into the hospital and took me away. My childhood friend personally pushed me onto the operating table. My parents signed the operation consent form outside. No matter how much I pleaded, they still took my child out. To collect the umbilical cord blood to treat my younger sister, Phoebe Moore, I was abandoned on the operating table, listening to the cries of my child gradually stop. The system also declared that I had failed in the game and thus would lose my life. But when my life was fading away, why did all those people who had told me to die seem lost their minds? In the maternity department of the hospital, the doctor put down the instrument, gently congratulating me. The baby is very healthy. Judging from the looks, it should be a very beautiful baby. I released a deep breath, preparing to get off the bed. The examination room door was yanked open, and people rushed in, led by none other than my husband, Harvey Scott, the president of Scott Corporation. Harvey is my third option, but the only one in his heart was Phoebe. The doctor was about to scold, but he was hauled out by the bodyguard in black. Harvey stepped forward steadily. His emotionless, frosty eyes sent chills down my spine. He subtly glanced at my belly, wearing an expression that I seemed somewhat useful. Immediately thereafter, I was hoisted by a bodyguard. I felt something terrible was about to happen and began to struggle frantically. "Harvey, what are you going to do?" Harvey stepped forward, gripping my chin. "Phoebe is sick and needs the umbilical cord blood of a direct relative for treatment. You went through all this trouble to conceive this cursed child, but at least it serves some purpose." I stared at him in disbelief. "Harvey, the child is only 7 months. What do you want to do?" Harvey sneered disdainfully. "Obviously, it's a premature birth. Don't use the child to blackmail me. It's his good fortune to cure Phoebe." My mind buzzed at the sudden revelation like a thunderbolt. "Harvey, yes, he was going to forcibly remove my child to treat Phoebe," I pleaded. "Harvey, I'm begging you. He's just 7 months old. He won't survive an emergency C-section. Just 3 more months and I'll give birth. Can't we get the umbilical blood then?" Harvey didn't even spare me a glance. 3 more months? I think you are trying to kill Phoebe. How could it be? Phoebe isn't ill at all. But it's all just a facade to set me up. Tears streamed down my face. "Harvey, I beg you, the child will die, and I will die too." Harvey scoffed. "Are you scared now? Weren't you fearless when you planned to have this child?" "Enough. This inborn shouldn't exist in the first place. Death simply signifies his lack of good fortune." Before I could cry, Harvey had his bodyguard silence me. Cold tears streaked across my face, leaving only a sense of despair in my heart. The cold system prompt echoed. "The child will be born prematurely. Mission failure, mission failure. Both mother and child will be erased." After a brief silence, the system offered me another chance, asking if I wanted to try it. As long as I could accumulate sufficient regret value from the target character, my mission would be a success. Watching Harvey anxiously arrange the operating room and doctor, I shook my head through my tears. There were no more chances. Even if I were to die, not a single tear would be shed for me. In the end, I couldn't hold a candle to Phoebe. Harvey, I once thought he was my salvation. When my parents and my childhood friend Rowan Jasper abandoned me for Phoebe, Harvey appeared like a deity. When I was harassed by hotel guests while working, it was he who came to my rescue. And it was him again who took me in when I was cast out by my parents and wandering in the snowstorm. Even upon meeting Phoebe, he didn't waver. He even insisted to my parents and Rowan that I wasn't the type to leave Phoebe on purpose. However, I didn't expect that at the time of my marriage to Harvey, Phoebe pulled out a small bamboo flute. Harvey's eyes shone as he held Phoebe's hand, claiming he'd been searching for her for 10 years. Ever since, no matter what I did, it was always wrong if Phoebe was involved. Even the child I had with him became a mistake. As I lay on the icy operating table, silent as a corpse, Harvey seemed somewhat surprised. He sneered at me. "Have you thought through this early, or are you suffering like this?" I looked at my hands and feet, where bruises marked the struggle. But I didn't react further. I said calmly, "Give me a divorce agreement." Even if I refused the last task, the system urged me to end it with them. Harvey was incredulous. "What did you say?" I understood why he was shocked. He had offered me a huge compensation to divorce him for Phoebe, but I had never budged. Even if he had subsequently neglected me, or publicly humiliated me over and over again, I had never mentioned the word divorce. I closed my eyes. "Let's divorce, Harvey. At least, don't let our child be sent to his death by his father." Hearing this, Harvey seemed stunned, but not long after, he looked at me with contempt. "Don't think you can emotionally blackmail me again. I've hired the best doctor. How could anything happen to that bastard of yours? Don't think everyone's as venomous as you, using children as a tool." Pain surged in my heart, but I didn't want to argue anymore. No matter what I said, he would never believe me. I reluctantly said, "Harvey, haven't you always wanted freedom? Well then, I don't want my child to have a father like you." Harvey kept his eyes on me. His expression changed repeatedly, seemingly probing to the truth in my words. In the end, the lead surgeon on the side, Rowan, my childhood friend, spoke up. "If you don't sign, how much longer do you want to delay Phoebe's surgery?" Harvey finally took the divorce agreement that the secretary handed over, signed it, and threw it at me. "You're the guilty party. Don't expect to get a penny." I did not even care to ask myself how I became the guilty party or mind about the money. Anyway, I'm going to die soon. The cesarean section operation is quick, only an hour. I affectionately stroked my stomach, apologized, and thought, "Sorry, I still couldn't protect you." There was a flutter in my stomach, as if a little hand was pushing against me. I couldn't help but let the tears fall. Rowan, who was by my side, was also my second conquest, my childhood friend who had sworn to protect me my whole life. Seeing my emotions, he let out a cold scoff. "Stop acting. Someone as malicious as you, would you care whether your child lives or dies?" Looking at his gentle face, which was full of contempt, I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. "Rowan, you promised to protect me for a lifetime." I grew up with Rowan. At first, Rowan didn't believe that I was the one who lost Phoebe. When my parents despised me, I was locked at home, nearly starving to death. He climbed over the balcony with his bare hands to bring me food. A 20-story-high building, but he didn't bat an eye. He said, "When we grow up, I'll take you away." But Phoebe, even though she has so many playmates at school, she only chases after Rowan. After delivering water to the basketball court multiple times, Rowan mentioned Phoebe. His opinion evolved from, "She's a green tea bitch," slang for a manipulative woman, to, "Maybe we've misunderstood her." I remained silent, and Rowan turned into uncomfortable silence. At that moment, I finally understood why Rowan's affection level towards me, which was almost full, had suddenly dropped a bit. Rowan is still very good to me, but he's gradually becoming better than Phoebe. For Phoebe, he skipped class, fought, and even stabbed the school's dean with a knife. Because Phoebe mentioned that, the dean looked at her with an oily gaze. Yet Dean, who has been teaching for 20 years, only had the bad reputation of being too strict. Phoebe only made a fuss because the dean reprimanded her a few times for dressing too provocatively. But Rowan didn't care at all, acting as madly as ever. The day when Rowan's affection for me dropped to 30, this madness finally extended to me. Rowan, who hasn't picked me up for a long time, brought a bag of snacks I love to pick me up. Unwary, I followed him to an abandoned warehouse. As soon as the door closed, Rowan, with a vicious look in his eyes, violently kicked me to the ground. "You're also a girl. How could you have contributed to Phoebe's scandalous photos? If it weren't for you spreading rumors about her, the headmaster wouldn't have taken a special liking towards her." Regardless of my desperate cries for explanation, Rowan stripped off my outer clothes. He took a lot of pictures of me dressed only in my underwear. Before Rowan left, he also took my clothes. "Since you enjoy calling women loose, let's have you experience it firsthand." That day, I was too scared to leave the factory. This time, Rowan didn't come to save me. At midnight, a homeless stranger found me. I struggled desperately until I finally smashed a brick in his head to escape. When my parents came to pick me up at the police station, Rowan even said that I undressed myself to seduce him. The story of my seduction spread around the school, causing an uproar. Everyone called me a slut. All the ragtags wanted to touch me. With fear and dread, I made it to my senior year, and finally, I applied to a top overseas university. But Rowan said that I drugged Phoebe during her postgraduate exam, causing her to perform poorly. Holding those photos, he threatened me to relinquish my postgraduate place to Phoebe. My only hope was shattered, and he blocked my opportunity for a repeat year. All because he was afraid I would pursue my postgraduate studies and continue to harm Phoebe. From then on, I had to take odd jobs to sustain myself. But Rowan wouldn't stop. Whenever I started working somewhere, he sent his gang to cause trouble. Not until I met Harvey did he stop. That's because Phoebe wanted to get close to Harvey through me. Even if Phoebe didn't love him, Harvey was ready to give everything for her gladly. Like now, he was risking losing his medical license to save Phoebe's life by performing surgery on me to take out my child. Seeing my promise made in my younger years, Rowan's contempt deepened. "Do you think you're worthy?" Rowan said, putting on his gloves, and started preparing his tools. His hand, smeared with gel, coldly touched my belly, as if examining a livestock. Then he nodded with satisfaction. "Indeed, even a tiger will not eat its cub. Even though you're so cruel, you raised the child well. If this child can save Phoebe's life, I can consider returning your scandalous photos to you." "No need for that," I calmly replied. Rowan didn't know the photos had spread everywhere by Phoebe. I lifted my bound hands. "Rowan, I've returned your things." Rowan looked at the bracelet on my wrist, a glimmer of surprise flashing in his eyes. It was just a cartoon plastic string, which had considerably faded over the years due to the cheap dye used on it. Confusion painted his gaze as he proceeded to remove it. He had gifted it to me during our childhood and professed that it represented a commitment he would live by in the future. Rowan touched the string, his tone slightly softened. "Apart from leaving you alone, I promise to do anything else." I lower my eyes, refusing to look at him. "Rowan, when I die, scatter my ashes in the river." At hearing my words, Rowan scoffed. "I knew you were up to no good. Trying to gain sympathy now? It's just a cesarean section operation. There is no way you can die from that." I just laughed. "I trust your medical skills, but eventually everyone dies." Seeing me agreeable for once, Rowan refrained from uttering harsh words. "All right, since you want to use that promise for something like this, don't regret it. From now on, as long as you stop bothering Phoebe, we have no further contact." Having said that, he turned his back to me to inspect the surgical instruments. Rowan was so cautious that he didn't even ask for a nurse's assistance, opting to perform the surgery alone. I watched his retreating figure. I quietly said, "Goodbye, Rowan." Even the system has determined that the final connection between me and Rowan has been severed. Confused, I asked the system, "Why am I, a person destined to die, urged to sever ties with my conquest targets?" The previously noisy system, however, stopped talking. At this moment, the parents of the first conquest target from the world I had come to barged in. They'd brandished a contract, intending to pull me into signing it without any discussion. It was a surrogate agreement. As long as Phoebe's illness does not improve, I have to continue to be pregnant and give birth repeatedly. To provide Phoebe with sufficient quantities of umbilical cord blood. Mr. and Mrs. Moore were my first subjects of the conquest. Because the difficulty of winning over their affection is low, the system regarded them as a single target. It would only be considered a successful conquest if the affection reached 100%. Their affection for me has only been more treasured due to the incident of Phoebe. Their affection for me has always remained at 99%. For many years, I have been basking in their love. I once thought it would always be so. Even if the conquest fails, if I cannot return to my original world, I am still willing to grow old with them here. Yet everything changed the day Phoebe came back. Ever since, Phoebe uttered, "I also don't know why Aurora left me there alone." Without discerning the truth, they have determined that I am the real culprit who lost Phoebe. After Phoebe repeatedly pleaded to me with caution, "Please, Aurora, I'll behave. Don't lose me again," their eyes gradually turned cold towards me. They no longer cared for me. They only attended Phoebe's parent-teacher meetings. Whether it was vacations or clothing and jewelry, they were all for Phoebe only. I felt invisible inside my own home. They were cheerfully eating together, and it turned silent the moment I joined the table, not even having a set of bowls and chopsticks for me. Later, they used business travel as an excuse and hardly came home. Phoebe and I were both sent off to boarding school, but later my classmates told me that Phoebe was a day student and our parents came to pick her up daily. I realized they had made a new home for her outside. When I brought Harvey home, they didn't even bother to meet him. But when Phoebe confessed her feelings for Harvey, they called us. They arranged an extravagant family feast. But after they got Harvey drunk, they sent Phoebe into his room. They didn't even spare me a glance before shutting me out of the house. "This is what you owe Phoebe." Later, Harvey refused and managed to escape through the window. Then they found me, trying to persuade me to convince Harvey to marry Phoebe. Nothing went as they wished. They didn't contact me once in almost 7 or 8 years. When the old neighbors asked, they claimed that I had eloped with some small-time hooligan and died abroad. If it wasn't for Phoebe's illness, I doubt they'd ever see me again in their lives. Without a word, I let them put down my fingerprint, consenting to Phoebe's life as a birthing tool. Once the fingerprint was taken, all they said to Rowan was, "Make sure the surgery stitches are good. Otherwise, she won't be able to give birth in the future." Rowan nodded. "Have you signed the surgical consent form?" Mrs. Moore was puzzled. "Why do we need to sign it?" I spoke calmly. "I've divorced Harvey. My direct relatives are only you two now." Her father's surprise was evident. "You finally divorced Harvey. He and Phoebe can finally be together." I didn't refute him, but simply reminded him. "Then don't forget to sign the surgical consent form. After all, you two are my only direct relatives." Angered by my words, Mrs. Moore slapped me. "Are you cursing Phoebe with this? She's also your younger sister, isn't she?" My head hit hard on the corner of the surgical table, and blood streamed down my forehead, clouding my eyes. Mrs. Moore's loving face twisted into something monstrous. Mr. Moore tensed up, but not because of me. Will her bleeding affect the quality of the cord blood? Hearing Rowan deny this, they finally calmed down. Then they glared at me. "We don't know how we could have raised such a venomous daughter." I watched them eagerly sign the surgical consent form. I finally spoke. "Mom, Dad, I will always love you." This is what I often said to Mr. and Mrs. Moore as a child. Every time they are saddened by the loss of Phoebe, as long as I say this, they will pick up their spirits again. Back then, they hugged tiny me, saying, without me, they wouldn't have known how to carry on. But now, Mr. and Mrs. Moore just looked startled and gave me that expression as if looking at an enemy. "Your love we cannot afford to receive." I pulled a forced smile. Then how about a severance agreement for terminating our parent-child relationship? From now on, Phoebe will be your only daughter. Without hesitation, Mr. and Mrs. Moore, with no paper at hand, even took a piece of tissue paper and wrote on it the reason for severing our family ties. They eagerly pressed their handprints. If we're to sever the tie, let's do it cleanly. You are forbidden to use the last name Moore, neither the name we gave to our precious daughter. Without a venomous woman like you, the Moore family can finally be completely pure. After saying these, they turned around and walked out the door without any reluctance. My eyes welled up with tears. I couldn't tell if those were blood from earlier or freshly shed tears. Rowan administered anesthetic for me. There was no feeling in my body, but my consciousness was clear. I felt the blade slicing my stomach and felt the baby separating from me. At the moment the baby's umbilical cord was cut, excruciating pain rushed into me. In Rowan's exclaimed, I watched as my blood surged unstoppably, pulling into a river beneath the operating table. He grits his teeth and hesitates for a moment, but eventually puts the child down and runs out with the freshly collected umbilical cord blood. My less than a month-old child lay next to me without a breath. I desperately reached out to him, and finally, before death enveloped me, I held his little hand. I heard my baby's voice. Mommy, don't cry. Tears poured down my face like rain, yet my gradually chilling hand couldn't warm my child's hand anymore. Baby, Mommy is coming to join you. Congratulations, host. The mission has successfully shifted. Calculating regret points for the 3 targets. The hour's countdown starts now. I aimlessly floated above my own body, but I didn't see my child's soul. The system said that when the time of settlement came, we would meet again. I fell silent, coldly observing the world after my death. Surprisingly, Rowan was the first to return. He was sweating profusely, but was taken aback by the amount of blood that spread to the entrance of the operating room. Aurora, don't you dare fall asleep. He grabbed the defibrillator, applying electricity to me. Aren't you the one who loves to fight the most? Why stop fighting now? If you don't wake up, your child will be taken away. My body, under the defibrillator's charge, convulsed violently. Once, twice, again and again. It jerked sharply, seemingly alive, but the monitor beside it showed no signs of life. Over 10 minutes passed. Harvey entered. Have you gone soft again and come to see her? I've told you that I've arranged for a doctor. Why aren't you watching over Phoebe? What if something goes wrong? But at the sight of my pale body, he stopped dead in his tracks. Rowan, however, didn't stop, shouting, Aurora, wake up! Wake up! Do you want your child to be born without a mother? The sharp, long beep from the instrument jolted Harvey awake. Raising his foot, he felt an incredible stickiness. That's when he noticed the pool of blood beneath his feet. Harvey looked incredulously at the scene. Apart from my body, the baby's corpse, and the frenzied Rowan, there was no one else in the operating room. Unable to control his rage, he roared, Where are the doctors and nurses I arranged? Where is everyone? Why did you leave her here alone? Harvey turned his head and ran towards the operating room, only to run into Aurora's parents. Mr. Moore looked displeased. What are you all doing here? Is Aurora causing trouble again? Ignoring him, Harvey forcefully pushed them aside, raging at the secretary outside. Where are the doctors I arranged? Mrs. Moore interjected. I sent them to Phoebe. Why do we need so many doctors for this difficulty? It's just a cesarean section surgery. Why create such a fuss? Harvey spun around, his eyes bloodshot, and glared at Mrs. Moore. Did you say you diverted the doctors? Mr. Moore stepped in front, frowning. Harvey, what is this attitude? Even though you're not yet married to Phoebe, we are still your prospective in-laws. What's the big deal about relocating a few doctors? Phoebe is on the verge of death. Isn't it necessary to have more doctors? Harvey roughly slapped him. Isn't the patient inside your daughter? Mr. Moore was knocked to the ground before he could respond. Just then, the doctors and nurses Harvey had originally arranged arrived. They complained to Harvey, saying as obstetricians and gynecologists, they couldn't serve any purpose with leukemia patients. Harvey pointed at Mr. Moore sharply. Did you hear that? They're not specialists for Phoebe's disease. Mrs. Moore, helping her husband up, spoke with dissatisfaction. More medical staff can provide peace of mind to Phoebe, who hasn't given birth before. It's just Aurora being melodramatic, needing so many doctors. Harvey was full of indignation and began to laugh. Are you still her mother? She's only 7 months pregnant. Don't you know how dangerous it is to forcibly perform a C-section? Mrs. Moore's face drained of color. How is that possible? Isn't she already 8 or 9 months pregnant? Harvey ignored her, urging the doctor to rush in and save me. Before the doctor and nurse could even step into the operating room, they were shocked. Seeing the doctor motionless, Harvey roared impatiently. Aren't you going to save her? The doctor turned around. Mr. Harvey, she's already dead. Harvey suddenly grabbed the doctor. Are you incompetent? Wasn't she still being resuscitated? Just now I saw her chest pulsing. Seeing Harvey denying the truth, the doctor showed a face of sympathy. Mr. Harvey, such a huge amount of blood loss. It's all the blood a normal person has. And the heart rate monitor over there has already alarmed. Even a god would find it hard to save her. My condolences. Harvey's hand dropped weakly. He took 2 incredulous steps back. How could this happen? He leaned against the cold wall, his face full of despair. I arranged for the best doctor. It was just a cesarean section. How could something go wrong? Mumbling to himself, yet remembering the child, Harvey grabbed the doctor again. There was another child. Save the child, doctor. The doctor had long noticed the child's corpse beside the operating table. He sighed. Mr. Harvey, the child is also gone. A premature baby of 7 months is already hard to survive, let alone being born without immediate medical personnel to handle. Harvey swayed slightly, his mouth agape, but no sound came out. He walked forward trembling. The 3-meter distance felt as if he was walking towards a bottomless abyss. In the end, he saw me joining hands with our child. Harvey's eyes were filled with rage. He roared like a beast, heavily punching Rowan. Aren't you supposed to be a genius, doctor? How could you mess up the surgery? Rowan fell to the ground, his body drenched in blood, the corners of his mouth bleeding due to Harvey's punch. Despite his condition, Rowan seemed oblivious, standing up again, holding a defibrillator. Wake up, Aurora, quit your act, or I won't have any more to do with you. The sight of Rowan's madness only poured fuel onto Harvey's fury. He threw another punch at Rowan. Rowan, however, neither dodged nor reacted, just kept his gaze fixed on me. Punch after punch, Harvey relentlessly threw himself onto Rowan. However, no matter how many times Rowan fell, he would stand up again, holding the defibrillator. Finally, Harvey broke, ceased beating Rowan, and proceeded to pick up the child. But he found the child's body stiff, tightly clenched in my hand, inseparable. Weeping uncontrollably, Harvey collapsed on top of me. Aurora, Aurora. Looking at this scene, resembling a farce, my heart didn't feel any sense of relief. The system observed the ludicrous scene, calculating the remorse value of those 2 individuals. Despite its mechanical tone, it echoed a hint of satisfaction. Host, you'll soon be able to return. I felt no ripple within my heart. Reaching 100% regret value was impossible. As soon as Phoebe appears, all their gazes immediately turn to her. No one else could get even the slightest attention. After so many disappointments, I've long learned not to have any expectations of them. I just want all of this to end quickly so I can apologize to my baby. Phoebe's impatient parents, who were waiting outside, began to urge. Isn't it done yet? Phoebe must be anxious. That Aurora, she's the best actress. You must never be soft-hearted. Harvey's secretary called on the phone. Mr. Harvey, Dr. Rowan, Miss Phoebe is looking for you. Phoebe's whiny voice came through the handset. Harvey, Rowan, is my sister refusing to let you go? I know it's tough to ask for my sister's help. She dislikes me so much. But I don't want to give up the chance to live. I'm afraid I won't see you guys. I need to draw blood. I'm really scared. Can you guys come to accompany me? Harvey snapped back to reality, knocked off the phone violently, and had his bodyguard move Rowan aside. Harvey furiously pushed Phoebe's parents in the room. "Do you even have a heart? Has your daughter already died?" Phoebe's parents were thrown in disarray, and Mrs. Moore opened her mouth to curse. "Nonsense! What is that wretch acting up for now? I just knew it. She is just playing the victim to take you both away from Phoebe." Mr. Moore was the first to realize that something was wrong. Touching the sticky blood on his body, his voice trembled. "Whose blood is this?" "Mrs. Moore also came back to her senses. Watching the blood that covered the ground, her lips began to tremble. She had given birth before. She knew what this amount of blood meant. Harvey ignored them, and instead came to my side, took off his coat, and draped it over me. His fingertips brushed across my icy cold face, and tears uncontrollably began to fall. "Honey, don't be afraid. I'll take you and our baby home." Mr. Moore managed to get up, tentatively reaching out to touch my breathing, only to encounter my icy skin. He recoiled as if he had been electrocuted. "Why? Why is she so cold?" Mrs. Moore mustered a pale smile, came to my side, and began to smooth my disheveled hair. "Aurora, weren't you always obsessed with looking pretty? Why have you become such a mess?" Her fingertips were as gentle as when I was young. "It's okay, let Mom comb your hair." Mrs. Moore started to hum the lullabies she regularly sang to me as a child, combing through my hair with her hand. Harvey pushed her away abruptly, protecting my cold body. "Don't touch her. It was you who killed Aurora. If you hadn't moved the doctor away, Aurora wouldn't have died." With tears streaming down his face, Mr. Moore, holding on to Mrs. Moore, who was still calling my name, charged towards Harvey and roared, "What right do you have? You and Aurora are divorced." Rowan also came to his senses. Shrugging off his bodyguards, he stood in front of my body, even picking up a scalpel. "Aurora asked me to handle the cremation. You bastards can all fuck off." But Harvey wouldn't back down. He charged in and got into a brawl with him, even getting stabbed with the scalpel a few times. Mr. Moore put Mrs. Moore to one side and joined the fray. At this point, Phoebe's voice came through the entrance. "What are you guys doing, leaving me all alone upstairs?" Unlike in the past, no one paid attention to Phoebe. Phoebe stepped forward and tried to pull away the bloody trio, but she was shoved and fell over onto the operation table. My corpse was hit and fell heavily onto the ground. Rowan turned at the noise, his eyes so blood-red that they seemed about to bleed. He pushed aside the group, gently cradling my dead body and our child. Phoebe rushed forward anxiously. "Rowan, what are you doing holding a corpse? It's bad luck." Rowan kicked her away, and Phoebe collided with instruments, sending them sprawling onto the floor. With a face of grievance, she turned towards Harvey. "Harvey, Rowan has gone mad." Harvey ignored her, brushing off her gripping hand, and followed after Rowan, who was holding me. Phoebe incredulously looked at her empty hand, then complained to her parents. "Mom, Dad, take a look, they're bullying me for the sake of Aurora." Even with her plaintive tone, she didn't garner sympathy from her parents. Both of them stumbled towards the door. Phoebe stood in the empty room, her beautiful face warped with malice. She angrily smashed objects, shouting, "You're dead and you still want to fight me for attention. I'll see to it that you lose your reputation. Even in death you'll be nothing more than a slut, condemned by all." I hovered in front of her, barely stifling a cold laugh. "Phoebe, your heart is as wicked as ever." My soul was uncontrollably drawn to the crematorium where my body lay. Bloodied and battered, the four of them looked as if they had just climbed out of hell. The furnace roared with flames, yet it couldn't illuminate the dullness in their eyes. A staff worker seeking family members for a signature, causing chaos among them. Harvey was confident. "I'm married to Aurora. I am her immediate family." Rowan shoved the divorce paper he held onto Harvey's face. "Mr. Harvey, you are only her ex-husband now." Harvey froze, pain overflowing in his eyes. Before Mr. Moore could utter a word, Rowan threw over the disownment document. You both just stated that you wished you never had this disgraceful child. Mr. Moore's figure hunched instantly, and Mrs. Moore screamed in agony, collapsing on the floor. The staff worker passed the consent form to Rowan. Are you Ms. Aurora's brother? Rowan's hand froze, the pen in his grasp, unable to sign the document. Phoebe arrived at the last minute and signed. The four of them immersed themselves in their emotions, ignoring her. The cremation had an hour left, and only an hour remained for my complete dissolution. A system reported the remorse value of the three. Regret value of Mr. and Mrs. Moore, 80. Regret value of Rowan, 93. Regret value of Harvey, 87. At this point, their regret values are still far from satisfactory. Even the system struggles to utter comforting words. I, however, am no longer saddened. I knew it would end up this way. Their regret is merely guilt felt in the heat of the moment. After a few comforting words from Phoebe, they would completely erase any semblance of regret from their hearts. Phoebe resumes her usual gentle demeanor, taking turns to console them. The sorrow etched on their faces dissipates a little. The system alarm started ringing. Regret values decreasing. Regret values decreasing. Phoebe, on the other hand, reveals a triumphant expression. Just then, Harvey's secretary hurries in. It turned out that a set of erotic photos of me taken by Rowan had been widely disseminated online. The phrase, "The wife of Scott Corporation's CEO has been working as an escort since her student years," topped the search popularity charts. Enraged, Harvey abruptly stands up and smashes his phone. "What have you guys done? Go and take down everything now." Mr. and Mrs. Moore joined the argument. How could they say that about Aurora? Seeing her attempt to curry favor backfired, Phoebe hastily tried to remedy the situation. "Oh no, don't be angry. I had seen these photos on the internet before. When I asked Aurora about them, she told me it was art. If Aurora doesn't cherish herself and splashes those pictures everywhere, it's not surprising others would speak ill of her." There was an underlying sense of smearing in Phoebe's words, yet her tone was pitiful, as if she was doing it for their good. This tactic was always effective for her, but this time she failed to notice Rowan's face, dark as ink. Phoebe was about to continue, when Rowan slapped her. "What nonsense are you spouting?" Phoebe cried. "Rowan, I know you have a special relationship with my sister, but you shouldn't want to silence the truth. If she insists on taking those indecorous photos, can we blame others? Look at her enticing expression in the photos. Maybe she intentionally took them for some punk." Rowan kicked her hard, knocking her over. "Those photos? I took them. When you accused Aurora of spreading her provocative photos, I was the one who forced her to take them. I had them locked securely in a safe deposit box. How could they be all over the place?" He coldly moved closer, glaring at Phoebe. "You're the only one who knows the password to my safe deposit box." After all this time, Phoebe had forgotten about this as she was busily spreading those photos on the internet. Phoebe looked at Rowan's murderous gaze and paled, backing away involuntarily. "Rowan, maybe you're mistaken, right?" Everyone snapped back to reality, staring at her intently. Phoebe's panic grew. Clutching her chest, she was about to lie down. It hurts so much." At this moment, Harvey's secretary placed down the phone. "President Harvey, we've got a message back from the whistleblower. They said it's from an account named Phoebe. The investigation is ongoing." Phoebe was the name of the account holder. Harvey clenched his fists and picked up Phoebe, his voice filled with icy menace. "You better pray that person is not you." Moore and his mother rang concurrently. "What? You're saying you've got the wrong kid?" They put the call on speaker, and the crisp voice of the officer on the other end came through. "Our apologies. In the process of cleaning up our data, we found there had been an error with the record. Very unfortunately, Phoebe is not your missing daughter. Phoebe was deceived into coming down from the north. She was under the sway of the deceiver, who was of similar age, led to the mistake." Mr. Moore gasped for air, his voice filled with disbelief. "Then where's our daughter?" The police officer's cold voice came. "According to the deceiver's confession, After they had taken the child, they found out that she was frail and sick. Hence, they threw her into the pond. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Moore fainted instantly. Just as Mr. Moore was about to hang up the phone, the officer added, "There is something of yours that you should come to claim. It's a small gold locket." The deceiver said that when they tried to kidnap your eldest daughter, she bit and kicked them, refusing to let go, even in the face of death. They knocked your eldest daughter unconscious and then took your younger daughter away. They realized that your older daughter was not easy to fool, so they took the golden lock from her. The father, Mr. Moore, repeated in a daze, "Aurora? She protected her younger sister?" The policeman didn't understand what he meant and hung up the phone with a grunt. Phoebe's face was pale, evading eye contact. "I don't know either. I just remember being taken away by a scoundrel when I was a child." Rowan kicked her hard. "You were always claiming that you were abandoned by Aurora, weren't you? How come you can't remember now?" Phoebe fled to a corner, trembling in distress. "My parents asked why Aurora wasn't kidnapped, but I was lost. I thought, that's right, it was them. Otherwise, as a child, how would I come up with such words?" The father, Mr. Moore, could no longer restrain himself. His face flushed red as he threw his cell phone. "You're talking rubbish. You said it yourself." The phone struck Phoebe squarely in the face. She howled in pain, her delicate nose twisted to one side. She crawled towards Harvey and cried, "Harvey, save me. They have all gone mad." Harvey pulled out a flute. "You're not from the South. How did you save me when you were 5? Seeing her lies exposed, Phoebe scrambled to her feet and tried to run. Rowan grabbed her hair, dragging her back. "You're not Aurora's sister, so where did your congenital illness come from?" Phoebe let out a scream, like a pig being slaughtered. "My parents told me I was ill." With a mere look from Harvey, his secretary went off to dig up the truth. What was flung back was a thick pack of documents, all evidence of Phoebe's faker over the years. Such crude tactics, yet none of them had bothered to question or investigate. By now, my ashes had been brought back. Phoebe was cast aside, as lifeless as a heap of mud, surrounded by fierce-looking bodyguards. Mrs. Moore was shaken awake by Mr. Moore, their fingers intertwined tightly. Circle my urn of ashes. Their eyes were bloodshot. After, their faces revealed only pain and deep regret. The system broadcast, "Regret value 100. Congratulations, host, for completing the task." Yet, I wasn't happy and only asked, "Where is my baby? Weren't you supposed to let me see him?" The system lost its voice and unease budded inside me. I was about to question further when Harvey suddenly shouted, "Aurora, is that you?" I looked over, annoyed, yet they all seemed to be able to see me. With great care, they placed down the urn and rushed towards me. Yet all of them passed right through me. Harvey cried until he nearly suffocated. "Wife, I was wrong. I was wrong." Rowan completely broke down. "Aurora, we promised to be together for a lifetime." Mr. and Mrs. Moore both shed tears as they chalked out, "Aurora, it's our fault. You explained it so many times." Ignoring them, I yelled into the void, "Where is my child?" All 4 of them froze, and the system finally spoke. "Host, it's your child that has brought on this opportunity to accumulate regret. Host, the main system has absorbed him. This is the resurrection chance he bought for you with his life. Please, don't let his good intentions go in vain." My head buzzed, and I couldn't snap back to reality. My baby, my tiny baby, dared to risk his life to protect me without even having a glimpse of this world. Upon hearing the system's voice, all 4 started panicking. "Wait, are you saying that Aurora's child allowed her to resurrect?" The system acknowledged coldly. The 4 of them become anxious. "Aurora, please come back quickly. We know we're in the wrong." Wiping the tears from my face, I looked at them coldly. "You want me to come back?" They all hurriedly nodded as is pounding garlic, fearing any delay could make me disappear. With a mocking laugh, I asked, "So you've regretted it?" Mr. Harvey pleaded, "Aurora, our child has given us such an opportunity. I'm begging you to return. Let me make amends to you. I returned coldly. President Harvey, you said it yourself. That's not your child, but a bastard. I glanced over the four and scoffed. You regret it now, but I don't want to anymore. After that, without giving them another glance, I spoke to the system. Take me back. A beam of white light shone down, and my figure gradually faded. Rowan lunged toward me. Aurora, where are you going? Let me go with you. Mrs. Moore wailed. Aurora, don't you want us anymore? White light completely enveloped me, and a warmth permeated. I knew it was my baby holding me. I didn't look at the regretful faces below. When I reopened my eyes, it was my parents from the previous life. They held me with surprise. Daughter, you're finally awake. Feeling the embrace I had missed for so long, I shed tears. The system's voice gradually became fuzzy. Host, the reward has been delivered. Please live a good life. A large sum of money arrived, and my family was back by my side, but a piece of my heart was always empty. In that world, I didn't let anyone down, but only I owe my child a life. Even when I looked at the messages the system transmitted back to me from the original world, I couldn't feel joy. Mr. and Mrs. Moore had completely lost their minds, wandering the streets looking for their daughter. Rowan had kidnapped countless people, forcing them to reveal whether they had a system or not. Harvey stayed in the hotel where we first met, getting drunk to the point of oblivion, never once returning to the Scott residence. And the imposter Phoebe, she had tasted all the anguish that I had once experienced. It wasn't even a month before she jumped into the river. But Harvey was prepared, having her fished out by the bodyguards of the Scott family, letting her live this life where she yearned for death but couldn't have it. But how could all of these amount to the life of my baby? Until that day, a child bumped into my leg, looked up at me, and said, Mom, I've been looking for you for so long. My empty heart was finally filled, and the weakened system bid me farewell. Parting gift. Host, may you find happiness. Holding my baby, I nodded tearfully. I certainly will. The end.